Hello, my name's Olorotimi Osha. Today is still June the 30th, 2026. I'm saying this sort of tongue-in-cheek because I did an earlier video um, in which I was anticipating the Supreme Court decision in the case of Trump versus Barbara, which was supposed to be a decision on birthright citizenship. Well, it turned out the decision of the Supreme Court turned out to be a damp squib. The entire case turned out to be a damp squib. I'm deliberately using this English figure of speech for those of us who just don't know. So a squib is a small firework or an explosive device. Of course, if it's detonated successfully, then it gives an impressive, loud bang, right? A loud, very loud, impressive bang. However, if the gunpowder is wet, then it sibilates, in a fizzle, right? So it just, it fails to explode. You know, because it's wet, and so that's why the expression damp squib. So of course people were were expecting major fireworks concerning the Supreme Court's decision on President Trump's executive order on birthright citizenship, trying to end birthright citizenship for babies born in the United States to non-U.S. citizens and non-permanent residents. So President Trump was seeking to end, what he called birth tourism. However, the Supreme Court, I had anticipated that they were going to, their ruling was going to uphold birthright citizenship just because it's guaranteed it's stated expressly in the U.S. Constitution, the 14th Amendment. I did an earlier video today, and I read, what it expressly says in the 14th Amendment, right, in the first clause, which is called the Citizenship Clause, that all persons, born in the United States, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are, citizens of the United States. Express, but just because we have a 6-3 conservative Supreme Court, of course, the conservatives were expecting fireworks that the 14th Amendment guaranteeing birthright citizenship would be overturned, would be, there will be a decision by the Supreme Court against the U.S. Constitution. It's expressly there. As I said, if it happened, since, we have one of the most politicized Supreme Court justices, in U.S. history, then the Supreme Court would turn out to be a joke. As I said, it turned out to be a damn squib. In Shakespearean word, that just means much ado about nothing, because yes, the Supreme Court upheld, the 14th Amendment, saying the 14th Amendment guaranteed birthright citizenship in a 5-4 decision. And so in a 6-3 decision, President Trump's executive order was overturned. Right? So much ado about nothing. That was predictable. But I wanted to do a better analysis of the case, because I said I was going to discuss the Solicitor General and the arguments that he put forth. As I said, this had already been settled in Wong Kim Ark. Pundits anticipated that it would be a 7-2 decision, just because there's some conservative justices that always say, be contrarian, regardless. But it's interesting that it came so close that there was a 5-4 decision. The Supreme Court was split. the way to change the Constitution is through a constitutional amendment by Congress, and it's not the Supreme Court that changes the Constitution. They only interpret the Constitution, and nothing could be in plainer language than the citizenship clause in the 14th Amendment. And just because one of the things about the law, common law and U.S. law is, is our jurisprudence is based on precedent. We've been doing something by custom. It's been 128 years thereabouts that the Supreme Court has, Americans, the U.S. government has followed Wong Kim Ark, right? United States versus Wong Kim Ark, 1898. I did an earlier video discussing this, so it just goes on, and the way to alter it is through Congress, right? And it takes 2/3 of Congress, right, to propose, and 3/4 of the state legislature to ratify a constitutional amendment ending birthright citizenship, if that's what the United States wants to do. But of course, it's kind of surprising how remarkably close at 5-4 that the court came. But as I said, I just thought that it's since I discussed it earlier on in the morning before the decision was made, I made a prediction. I mean, it was a no-brainer that it's something, nothing can be plainer in the U.S. Constitution, and so the court simply upheld what was in the Constitution, the language of the Constitution, even though the court was split 5-4, right? So I'm gonna do a video and discuss the details. Of course, I'm a lawyer. I graduated from George Washington University Law School. I don't practice law. I'm not licensed to practice. I'm going to, by God's grace, I'm going to take the bar at some point. But I enjoy discussing the law, analyzing the law, legal matters, especially constitutional law. So I'm going to do another video and just discuss the interesting arguments by the Solicitor General, John Sauer, right? As I said, a very intelligent man. I did an earlier video just describing his background, and so his argument is kind of interesting. But again, this had been addressed in Wong Kim Ark versus United States versus Wong Kim Ark in 1898. So I'm going to keep this video short. I just thought it was kind of interesting to be able to just address the decision, and the decision did come out. So 5-4, the Supreme Court justices were divided. Interestingly, the conservative who sided with the liberals, right, the regular liberals, that's Justice Sotomayor, Justice Elena Kagan, whom I met, by the way, a long time ago when she was Dean of Harvard Law School. I didn't go to Harvard Law School, but I met her. I lived in Cambridge, and I met her in a store, in a grocery store, and I walked up to her and I greeted her and shook her hand. She said hi. That's Justice Elena Kagan. And so, and who was the third? Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, right? So those three, of course, voted one way. And someone who joined them was Justice Amy Coney Barrett, whom I'd written an article saying I thought that on liberal issues, I anticipated, I wrote it many years ago during her confirmation, anticipated she would vote on certain issues concerning race, minority issues on the side of the liberal justices. Well, she's proving me right with this decision. She voted twice on the side of the liberal justices. So and of course Chief Justice John Roberts as well. Chief Justice John Roberts, interestingly, we both worked in the same, I worked in a building he worked in one time on Connecticut Avenue. And Alan Greenspan, who's late now, he passed not too long ago, at 100 years old. You meet him in the elevator. We worked in the same building, very interesting building on Connecticut Avenue, Washington, D.C. So Chief Justice John Roberts worked in that building as well. I don't know if I should even say the number. Yeah, I guess it's Washington, D.C. you bump into everybody. But it was just interesting being able to, just stepping into the elevator and seeing these people, and then, once in a while. And 6-3, the court voted 6-3 to strike down the executive order. And Justice Brett Kavanaugh joined the others in the 6-3 decision to strike down the executive order. So my name's Olurotimi Osha. I'll keep you posted. Thank you.